So I thought this morning I would share something about me that you may not know. And it's in light of our conversation about scouting and my being an Eagle Scout. So I thought I'd give you a little history of what scouting was in my life, and I think you'll find it interesting. I became a Cub Scout in 1956 with Pack 849 in Manhattan Beach, California. I became a Boy Scout in 1958 with Troop 849 in Manhattan Beach. I then became a Tenderfoot Scout, and I attended the Buckhorn Scout Camp in Lake Arrowhead. So I would have been 11 years old, and that was my first week-long camping event. In the summer of 1959, at age 12, I earned the rank of second-class scout, and I completed a 65-mile week-long hike called the Golden Arrowhead, which is in the San Gabriel Mountains. And you hike for a week, and you carry your food on your back, and it usually was between 5 and 7 scouts within the troop, joined by 1 or 2 adults, and you would get replenished at some place where you crossed the road. So one of the mothers or a group of mothers or a mother and father would replenish us halfway through that 65 miles. And those were interesting times at that age. I think I just put one foot in front of the other because other scouts did it. I don't think I had any wherewithal of what it was or what it would mean in my life. So at the summer of 1959, at the age of 12, I would earn the first class scout rank, and I would go on to become a star scout, and I was tapped out to the Order of the Arrow. The Order of the Arrow is an honorary campers association within the Boy Scouts of America, where young men are introduced to Indian lore, and it's run by, or the nationwide association of the Order of the Arrow have lodges, and then the lodges have chapters, and they're broken down into geographical regions. As I remember, we were the Swanis Lodge, and I was the Wyandotte chapter. And Tap Out is an event around a large campfire at night where Indians or people are dressed up, the chief with full regalia, a medicine man with horns and paint on and drums beating, and oh my God, the campfire's going, and then there are Indian dancers that go with this group, and they basically, all the young men that are in a circle that are presented are not all tapped out. So all these scouts, which could be, they come from multiple troops, so there could be 100 of us there, and they're not all tapped out. And basically tapping out is the chief looks at you for a moment. Of course, you don't know whether you'll be tapped out or not, and he then taps 3 times on your left shoulder, and basically you're tapped out. And when that happens, there are guys behind you that basically drag you, put this piece of twine over your, or small rope over your neck, and it's a board, it's a wood, that piece of wood that goes across the front of you, which you wear, which for the entire weekend, which if you get 3 notches in it for speaking, you're then removed from the tap out. In other words, you're disowned, or you're basically removed from the event. So you can't speak through the rest of the weekend, as you're then taken to work parties, and you're basically dragged out in the bushes, and all you have is a sleeping bag they let you carry, and they throw you, they enjoy looking for the deepest piece of chaparral they can find to throw you in it to sleep all night, and you basically have to sleep there. And of course 12 or 13 years old and you're freaking scared to death. I mean, freaking, you know, with the F letter word, you know, you're going, oh my God, you know, and yeah, and you don't know what's going to eat you, you know, it's tough it up. Come on, tough it up. Yeah, tough it up is right. Yeah. So anyway, that's called the Order of the Arrow, and that's your first introduction to it. So, in the summer of 1960, at the age of 13, I would become a Life Scout, and I would complete the Silver Knapsack Hike, which was 69 miles, and it was another week-long hike. And that's in Kern County. And that would be the first time, of course, we carry everything on our back. You know, you saw your toothbrush in half, you carry extra socks, but you can be 20 miles from the closest road, so you learn to not let your fellow scouts, and of course you're taught this by the adults, but to use an axe in a way where he could get hurt, I mean, or have any type of serious first aid, because you're 20 miles from getting it. And anyway, there's a lot to learn to take serious in these things. But that would be the first time I would catch a trout. And my dad was the scoutmaster on that trip. And my father grew up in Washington, D.C., and he was one of 9 children. 4 brothers and 5 sisters, and he would come to California, this family would come to California when he was 11, and they drove, I mean, right out of the Grapes of Wrath, across railroad ties as they went across portions of the country. And at the age of 11, they all drove. I mean, it's just a matter of you could see over the steering wheel or sit on the pillow or reach the pedals. You were basically going to be part of the driving team. He grew, when he got to California, they came west because, and this is a segue, but they came west because his father had tuberculosis. So they brought him to a sanitarium in Arizona, but he felt better when he came into this climate, so they came all the way to California with him. He would later return to Arizona and die. Of course, I never met my grandfather, but my father would then grow up going to Los Angeles High School. And Earl Flynn was one of my father was a great springboard diver, and Earl Flynn and all these guys that went to LA High School were buds, and there were lots of pictures of them, you know, doing swashbuckling stuff, but anyway, he would grow up and he would have a fixation. Growing up on the Potomac River back east, he would have a fixation with the United States Forest Service, and my father liked to be outdoors. So when the war came, he would join the National Park Service and become active in the National Park Service. And it was, the reason I'm tying this together for you was because of his love of the outdoors. It was something that I think vicariously he had me enjoy and raised me in that love of the outdoors. And so that was really I had no idea what the hell was going on, you know. I mean, I was just being drug along, and I really didn't join the Boy Scouts because I wanted to be a Boy Scout, but I was a Boy Scout because my father wanted me to be a Boy Scout, I think. So anyway, back to the Silver Knapsack. We carried our fishing equipment in a Kodak screwed can. The little cans of film came in. And we would carry the line wrapped up in it. We would carry a fly and a hook in it. We would carry, you know, that would be about all you could get in that can. But you would carry enough that then you'd cut a willow pole and you'd make a fishing pole out of it, and you would fish and you could survive. And that was what we did. And so he cut the pole, he stripped the branches off, I tied the line on, and in the rushing, you know, river of the North Fork of the San Joaquin River, probably in Kern, somewhere in the middle of Kern County, I caught a 13-inch rainbow trout. That was an amazing deal that we ate. So that was a pretty neat experience. I would also that year, in 1960, at the age of 13, earn the God and Country Award. I was a fourth generation Episcopalian. I was an altar boy at St. Cross Episcopal Church. Other young men were in scouting were active as altar boys, and I would do, probably took about a year and attending classes and my mother taking me. And anyway, I would earn the God and Country Award at the Episcopal Church and be presented with that. I'd also be a second tap out in the Order of the Arrow. The next, after you go in as, I don't know what you're called when you first go in, I forget. But the next level is called Brotherhood, and the final level in the Order of the Arrow is called Vigil. And you wear a sash, it's a white sash with a red arrow across it. Some of you may have seen pictures of this or have children that were in the Order of the Arrow. The Brotherhood gets a bar at each end of that arrow, and the Vigil gets another arrowhead in the middle of the shaft of the arrow. I would never become Vigil, but I would be tapped out for earning the Brotherhood. I would join the Indian dance team at the Wyandotte chapter for the Swanus Lodge, and I really enjoyed that. We basically wore swim shorts, but we had everything else, and we would go to a place in the valley called, I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but it would be a retail store where we would buy Indian regalia, and we would buy bells that would go around our ankles, but big bells, and then we would buy bigger bells that would go around our knees, and all this leather was lined with sheepskin, and you'd buckle it on, and we would buy wigs that had German hair, original wigs. At that time probably would be a couple $100, and it was really cool. We would wear bustles, and there were two styles. There were basically Oklahoma, which is the very colorful Indian in the Midwest, and then Old Sioux, that would be more authentic. And I really enjoyed that. And we would travel all over the state and perform, and it was really fun. So I enjoyed that a lot. I would also complete that year the Silver Moccasin Hike, which is another 65-mile hike. We walked from Forest Home to Lake Arrowhead, up and around Big Bear Lake. We would go up and over Mount San Jacinto. No, Mount San Jacinto is on the south side, right? What's on the north side? Gorgonio. We'd go up over Gorgonio. And anyway, that was an interesting thing. I would also go that summer, I would go to the National Jamboree in Colorado Springs. So that would have been probably 61. 60, okay, yeah, thanks. 60. And I would go as a Life Scout. And I remember I was young. I was little. I was young. That was interesting, being around other scouts, because a National Jamboree troop is formed by people that can afford to send their children. There was a selection process, and of course it would be unusual to have more than one or two come from one troop. So I think I was the only one from my troop that went. So anyways, that was quite an experience. I remember having Dwight D. Eisenhower drive down in front of me, lined up along, and seeing him in a convertible, I think Lincoln Continental, and drive by. So anyway, then in the fall of 1961, at the age of 14, I would be awarded the rank of Eagle. And I would, later that year, I would be awarded the KFI Eagle Scout of the Year Award. And KFI Radio would give a radio session every Sunday for about 15 to 20 minutes interviewing an Eagle Scout once a week. So 52 Eagle Scouts basically annually would be sent on a 10-day pack trip on the high Sierras, fully paid for. And I would do that that year. That was quite an experience. We left Bass Lake and walked to Devil's Post Pile and back in 10 days. That's about over 120 miles. Every two boys had a burro that they carried, which was not your personal items because you carried that on your back, but would have been the food supply and the other things that about 80 scouts would go on. And two large donkeys would carry a portable ham radio that guys would crank, and they would, KFI radio would then send out, about what the activities was going on. Well, anyway, in the middle of that hike, we got lost at the top of the granite stairway because of deep snow or along like a winter like now. When we got to the top of the granite stairway, we couldn't find the trail. But when 70 Eagle Scouts camp on the trail, it's like no big deal. I mean, it's just, you're going to find the trail. Of course, I'm all of 14 years old watching guys that are 17 and a half just like take charge. And I had cold chills now about what that meant. I mean, I'm little, I'm young, I'm kind of nervous and afraid, so anyway, we were looking for this trail, and we got off the side of the hill, and one of the guys' donkey started to hobble up, and went hee-haw, and the donkey tumbled down the hill 250 feet with the pots and pans coming off.
Oh,
It's hee-hawing, screaming and yelling, and man, I'm just standing there going, like, whoa. And so everything calms down, everybody goes, are you okay? And this is nothing but shale rock and just straight down this mountainside. And it's down there like no noise. And so some guy goes, yeah, we're all okay. And the guy goes, okay, I'll take care of it. He pulls out a knife, it's just short of sticking it in his teeth, runs off the side of the hill, goes down, holds his donkey, slits his throat, and kills him right on the spot. And I'm 14 years old going, what just happened? What's going on? And he just basically did what he needed to do and came back up the hill, and we found the trail, and we walked home. And it was like, yeah. So we would then go on, and in that 7 days, because of the weather, just one more anecdote, we would walk 20 miles up to a crossing, actually 10 miles up to a crossing, which was Sheep's Crossing on one of the Sandwich somewhere. When we got there, the bridge was washed out. So we slept next to this roaring waterfall, and I can remember, I don't know if you've ever been around a waterfall. If you've ever been the thunderous noise of a waterfall, it's and the earth shaking under you. But I was, again, 14 years old and sleeping there going, basically just kind of like cry yourself to sleep, man, and go, wow, I got to get out of here, And you just kind of maintain. And but anyway, we walked 10 miles back to get on the trail to finish the rest of that hike. But you just do what you need to do. You tough it up. You put one foot in front of the other, and that's what you're learning about, So as my career would come to an end in the Boy Scouts of America, I would then in the summer of 1962 at the age of 15 join Sea Scout Ship 713. It wasn't enough to me to just be a Boy Scout. And I don't know where something goes on. I was thinking about this in the shower this morning to share with you. It's about finishing what you start that's given to a son through this experience. I don't know that each individual experiences are so important as the fact that I completed the rank of Eagle. My mom didn't have to drag me there. I internally wanted, it wasn't about becoming an Eagle Scout, but it was about finishing. And so then it made it easy for me. And I didn't know what, I didn't even talk about becoming an Eagle Scout to anybody. For years, I would not even tell anybody I was an Eagle Scout. It was like no big deal to me. Anyway, I would join the Sea Scouts, and I would learn basic seamanship. I learned to sail a dinghy. I learned boat maintenance and repairs. And of course, my father was in yachting. His dad's brothers were in yachting. They were world-class yachtsmen already. So I would inherit all of that, and I probably again was fulfilling something that was comfortable and exciting to my father and my family. In the summer of I would attend some different events as in Sea Scouts. In the summer of '64, at the age of 17, I earned able-bodied seaman. And as you arrive at 18, you have to leave the Boy Scouts of America and all its activities. So I wanted to become quartermaster, which is the equal rank in the Sea Scouts of Eagle Scout, but I wouldn't make it. I would fall short of it. I would be right there next to it, but I'd have to resign, step out.
So you've got 1 minute to finish the next 60 years of your life.
So that summer of '64, at 17 years old, my next door neighbor had a P-Cat, and it was tipped upside down on an empty lot, and a Pacific catamaran, it's 18-foot catamaran, fiberglass, and had a wooden mast and boom, and I said to him, could I have the boat? It had 2 holes in the bow that somebody had run into. Anyway, I would repair the boat, I'd paint it all white, my dad would help me, I'd varnish the mast. My dad would take me to Kenny Watt's sail locker, who were friends, and we'd get a sail that was too big for it, and I sailed it to Catalina with a friend, and in Sea Scouts, we went from King Harbor to Catalina. No radio, no compass, no electronics. We lashed a little 3-inch diameter compass in a little wood box next to the mast at the base of it, and that's how we went to Catalina. And I came back. And I want to share with you that what that must have meant to my parents. I mean, here I am in the middle of the ocean. They can't call me. They can't anything. They never knew. And my dad and mom trusted me in that knowledge to be able to do that. And I would reflect on that later in life, too. Anyway, the next 10 years, I would leave scouting and venture off into a career in commercial industrial real estate. In 1976, I would form and open C. Thomas Ruppert and Associates Commercial Industrial Real Estate. The firm would grow to be one of the top 25 companies in the LA County. Then one day I met John Clairhout, Scout Executive in the LA Area Council, and he would ask me to join the board of directors, where I would serve for the next 10 years, traveling with members of the board to the National Jamboree, Fort A.P. Hill, attend Philmont Scout Ranch, and visit many other scout locations throughout America with other men who supported scouting. In 1984, I would create the Robert O. Anderson Eagle Scout of the Year Award, the only sanctioned